What does racism feel like?
At times, racism makes you feel like you're not there. Nobody sees you. And then at other times, it makes you feel like you're dirty, that there's something wrong with you.
Racism feels like anger. It feels like hate.
It can make you feel like you're uneducated at times. You can have beautiful vocabulary. You can speak very well. And there's always someone in the crowd that's going to try to put you down.
It feels like being invisible. It feels like being dismissed.
Man, it's so hard to describe. It's painful, it's eerie, it's disappointment, it's makes you angry, upset, sad. There are so many descriptors for racism as far as the feeling of it, but you know, it's so historic, and it feels like it just permeates your skin, and it feels like an impediment to your progress, and it feels like just a damning of your existence.
Racism feels like those times in your childhood when you would be going through something, normally with your parents or siblings, inner family stuff, and you get that feeling like, I don't belong, or am I supposed to be here? And you know, that carries with you until you're able to form some self-consciousness and really understand what building a self-worth is about. I don't wish it upon anybody because, I mean, as we all know, that, you know, sometimes in our lives we have that feeling where we don't belong, or nobody loves us, or any of those self-denigrating feelings. So, yeah, it's just kind of, it's rough. It makes you question where your place is at.
And like signals of energy of disgust. Sometimes racism feels like it feels lonely.
My father's English and Irish. My mother is Native American and African. And I was raised by both of my parents. My parents were ran out of the state of Virginia. They were going to lynch them. And they went to Washington, didn't make it there, and they went on to Philadelphia. And I was raised in an all-white neighborhood. I didn't know I was a person of color till I was 12 years old. I didn't know there were so many people of color in the world till I was 19. And that's the truth. But I have been through racism. And a lot of times you question, what's wrong with me? My father came to school. My mother came to school. My father one day couldn't come to school and pick me up.
How old were you?
I was 12. Somewhere between 10 and 12. So my mother wasn't working that day, and she came to the school to pick me up. And one of the children said, "What's that colored woman doing over there by the fence? Look at her." And I looked over there, because I was busy looking for Daddy. And I looked over there, and there was my mother. And I said, "Oh, that's my mother." And I ran towards her, and somebody, I don't know whether the child misunderstood me or what, but some kid said, "Oh, that's Mita's maid." And I turned around and I said, "That's not my maid, that's my mother." And from then on, it was, oh, meet his mother, meet his maid.
You know, it was interesting. You know, I don't know if it was technically racism, but I think the one thing that I thought growing up in high school that was interesting was tracking, the concept of tracks in schools. And, you know, arguably, I think people can look at it and say that the racism, that was a form of systemic racism. What I found was, you know, when going to a Catholic school, we had the track system. You know, you had your folks in your AP, but you had your track 1, track 2, track 3, and track 4. And the folks, and I remember my mother beating this in my head, like, you want to get into track 1 and track 2, because the track 1 and track 2 kids are the kids that have the opportunity to go to college. And the kids that are in track 3 and track 4 don't usually get the investment that they should to boost them up to go to college. But what I found is that track 3 and track 4, there were more people of color in 3 and 4 than there were in 1 and 2.
I guess I had to be about 9 or 10 years old. And I remember traveling with my family. My father was very adamant about making sure that we traveled. And I remember just seeing red and blue lights and being so afraid. And when I looked up, you know, it was like silence in the car. Or when I looked up, I could hear police officers asking my dad to step out of the vehicle. I remember seeing his hands across the dash. I remember cop cars with rifles pointed at my dad, my abu. And I remember them making him get to the ground. I remember being so scared.
My first encounter with the police was, so I went to a summer cookout with my parents, my mother and my father. It was one of the few memories that I have of them together. But my dad at the cookout got caught trying to talk to another female, and my mom grabbed me and we left and sped towards our home. We got there and she just started packing up stuff. I didn't know what was going on. I think I might have been 4 or 5 at the time. I just know my mom was hysterical. So we're there probably about 10-15 minutes, and my father burst through the door, and they commenced jangling at first with the mouth, and then it started turning physical. I think I don't know who called the police, one of my neighbors, but the police came there, and my dad fought them. And I watched him fight 4 cops by himself until ultimately they got the best of him and took him to jail. I don't know what the outcome or results of any of that stuff was. Like I said, I was a little kid, but and not knowing the situation, all I saw was the cops beating up my dad. And so that kind of stuck with me. It stuck with me over the years from the aspect of a child's eyes, and watching their dad, you know, being physical and being overpowered physically by the cops.
You know, my first encounter was with the Police Athletic League at PAL. And where I live, it was the 35th District Philadelphia Police. And the person who was assigned to our area that worked with the youth was Officer Jones. He was a phenomenal man, great man. He really did a lot for me and my brothers, and just working with the kids in the neighborhood. That's where community policing it was making a difference, right? Folks weren't in there in your space just to arrest you. They were there to uplift you. They were part of your community in that sense when I was growing up. So that was my first experience with police, was with Officer Jones, just a phenomenal man. And it's interesting because it shifted for me, like the first time I got pulled over. And the first time I got pulled over, my expectations were that person would engage me in all of my humanity like Officer Jones did. And that was not the case. So it was definitely a wake-up call for me.
You want the truth.
Take your time.
I haven't talked about this in years. I was a young girl. On the 2656 Orkney Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I live right behind St. Christopher's Hospital. My father was a very, very nice man. God didn't make a man better than my dad. So, I dodged the old man that lived across the street from us. I used to go over and talk to him. So I didn't have many friends. I still don't. I don't make friends. I don't trust people. But I used to go over and talk to him until he started wanting to pat and feel on me. He had 4 sons, and they were all on the police force. So after a while, I just, instinct told me to stay away from him. So we moved up the block, in the same block, but we moved further up. It wasn't right across the street from us anymore. But Daddy had made friends with his sons. And as I say, all 4 of them were on the police force. I can't remember whether he was on the police force at one time or not, but I knew during that time he had retired from whatever he was doing. Daddy had made friends with his sons. And there was one son, I don't know whether he was the younger of the 4, but he looked like he was. And he started grooming me, if you know what I mean. And he got to a point where he would catch my father when he wasn't there. Because like I say, my mother worked all the time. And he would catch my father there when he wasn't there. And he would come in and he would sexually molest me. And I was scared because I thought that they would do something to my mother and my father. I never told anybody. It's the first time I've ever told anyone about this.